Hello,
Yes.
John.
Hello, Lauren. How are you?
I'm pretty excellent. How are you?
Doing all right. Doing all right.
It's wild to watch someone's lots of videos and then have them in their same setup actually talking to you. It's almost like you're
Yeah.
coming out of the TV.
Yeah. My camera just kind of sits in this spot and I don't have a webcam. So I figured out I could just use the camera and never have to move it. And yeah, I get that comment occasionally when I hop on a Zoom call with somebody. They think they're on YouTube.
They're live on YouTube. Well, we kind of are because we're going to put this on YouTube and we're going to put it into the sound file, make it a podcast. But I just wanted to get on and say hello to you and meet you because you're doing such cool stuff, you
Oh,
know?
thank you.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's like I'm always trying to find another artist that I think has got a richness to them and a depth and something to say that actually feels real to me, and it feels authentic. And so I've seen a couple of your videos and I just thought, wow, you've got something going on.
Well, I appreciate that. I I've been around for a while, I guess, 20 something years and done a lot of things. And one was teaching. We could talk about that. I taught at a production school and everything just kind of came together and YouTube made sense with my interests. And it's been a unbelievable, uh, just the people that I've met because of it, like yourself, and the opportunities that have come my way because of it. It's kind of changed my life, just
That's
in a lot
cool.
of things that I do. And so I appreciate you saying that. I try to share as honestly as I can about my how I managed to kind of squeeze my way through the music business for 25 years. It's been a long, fun road, but it's been challenging at times, and I think most people uh, we don't hear that as much. But I try to put it into a perspective that hopefully it's encouraging as well. But it's a lot of work.
It is encouraging. I think you were hitting it on the head in some of the ones that I've been watching recently, where you're saying, like, we all need artistic company and we're looking for connection.
Hmm.
And we kind of need to know sometimes that we all realize it's pretty rough and it can be kind of rocky and stuff, but that the music itself is the reward. I think that's
Hmm.
what we often lose sight of, is how magical and fun it is to be actually in that creative process and how exciting that is. And even just talking about it isn't enough. It's like you got to be in it, doing it, and
Yeah.
that makes everything okay. Otherwise, the world is a little too wacky.
Yeah, I because of this making videos and to me it making videos is an artistic expression. I try to make it so, and it kind of checks some of those boxes that music always checked, as far as like I think about it all the time. I've got ideas, and to me that's what's so fun about any creative process, is that it's not just the moment you're playing. It's just you're always trying to think of a new way to express yourself. But when I find myself in those days where I just block it out and all I'm doing is writing, I kind of remember, uh, oh yeah, it takes a while to get into that state of making and creating. But when you do get it, it's really fun, and just like those moments of discovery, that where you kind of work and you think, and then something happens. You're like, oh, okay, that's really what I want to chase now. So yeah,
Yeah.
I love the results. I mean, I love being able to share things, and that's what YouTube has given me, is an outlet. Sometimes when you write music, there's not many people there to listen to it at the end. It can be a challenge sometimes, but uh, yeah, the you realize when you're doing it, yeah, it's just such a fun process.
Yeah, I think a friend of mine has it correctly. This other artist I know, Kate Chadbourne, will always say, you know, the world is a very magical place, and the arts, especially the creative process. And the idea is to remember to keep using it, to use the
Yes.
magic that's out there. That it's like if you find that little place where it's so exciting to be and you start to get that flow and that momentum going, it's the most delicious thing on earth. It's just so fascinating. And
Mhm.
that's why for a while when I was much younger and I was writing so many songs, I noticed I had almost written a song a month, even just one whole song a month, and I was very young at the time, maybe 12. I thought, what do you are you not feeling creative on these 2 months? Why didn't you write one for those 2 months as well? You almost wrote one whole song a month. And I thought, if I love doing it so much, why don't I do it more often? And I had accidentally fallen into it, but it was such an exciting thing to find. And I
Yeah.
just wanted to feel that way as often as I could. So when did you fall in love with even making sounds on instruments, and what came first, writing or playing an instrument?
Well, this was a long time ago now. I
I'm much older than you, so I'm sure you can remember.
well, let's see, I'm 44, so I was around middle school age, and I was given a guitar and saying the guy at my church played guitar, and I was just amazed by it, and I wanted to do that. And then so to me, it was always a balance of kind of playing guitar, but he also had this 4-track Tascam recorder, and it was a cassette deck. And so I mean, I played piano and that kind of thing. I took some lessons, but I never really stayed with it. And I was in band too, kind of at this time, but I didn't do that much past my middle school ages. But my memories were playing this guitar, but also learning how to use this little recorder and playing a little. I
Hmm.
would help him, and so for me, there's always been a connection between recording music and making music. Like the
Me too.
technology side of thing was very interesting to me, along with the creative side. And I would learn to create so that I could record it. And then
Absolutely.
and it to me that was fascinating. And then I could layer things on top of it. And then that led to, my first PC when I was in high school, and a little sound card, M audio or something, MIDI man or something like that. And
Right.
I would so that's kind of my path. It's always been those two things. I don't remember much without, the fascination with getting it down and learning that medium, but also with creating. And so I always just wanted to make my own stuff.
Yeah, me too. And the way in which it translates from how it sounds live, or even in your head as an idea, then live as you play it, and then as a recorded finished record.
Yeah.
Taking that tiny idea and turning it into a finished record was really, really cool and exciting. And like you say, it was matched pretty early for me as well. And all different types of recording devices, like little boxes with little reel to reels in them that my dad had, and big web core tape recorders, and cassette to cassette, and then a 1/4 inch 4-track reel to reel TIAC, and then a 1/2 inch 8-track Tascam, and then ADATs, and then finally Logic.
So
So it's
So that's where I jumped on. Like the
ADAT
studio that I got in was
and
they had
ADAT
just
studio.
finished their ADAT. So I was Pro Tools really. Cakewalk, I think I used, and then Pro Tools, and so I can't even operate a tape machine. That's how you define my generation. Is I was the last one that missed
That
that.
was a tape machine.
Yeah, I would love to have known how to do it, but I just missed it.
You didn't miss tape hiss, though, I'm sure. That's one of the things that is really exciting to me about digital recording, and the fact that when I finally finish a song, doesn't take that long for me, but when I finish the song and I do the just written version, that first version, it used to just go onto a little cassette and it would be noisy. And,
Uh-huh.
hundreds of songs later, sometimes some of those never got turned into records, so those demos are just dinky cassette versions. Whereas
Yeah,
now, if I do a little just written version and it's on Logic, I can turn that into the finished record.
yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah.
that's
That is an interesting. It seems like the demo is not really as much of a thing as it once was. where you would just
Probably because
you'd
of the way
record
they
on
learn.
some device that could make it sound okay. But nowadays, I just kind of take it all the way, you know?
Sure, why not? Yeah. And I liked, there was another video you were talking about in finding your own voice. I really liked that you didn't mind the approach. Some artists really take issue with it, but of imitating some of the greats to learn how to talk, to learn how to play well. Because I'm
Hmm.
always telling my students, you didn't grow up under a rock and
Yeah.
learn how to speak English or learn the alphabet or
Yeah.
learn the language by yourself. You learned English one word at a time, you know.
Hmm.
And to learn how to really play an instrument well by copying people who play it tremendously well really
Hmm.
teaches you how to make a good noise. Like your individual voice is your heart, your soul, your fingerprints. You've already got that. You just have to learn how to make a good noise, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it's the combination of all those. And there's just something about it, you know, when you may never get to the level of that player that did that sound, but you do understand the little things that have to happen with your fingers to recreate that sound at least 80% of the way.
yeah.
And those are universal. That guitar player didn't come up with that way of muting one string while playing another. You know that, and sometimes we don't even attempt that kind of technique until we're trying to do what someone else did. So, yeah, I understand this idea that I'm an artist and I do my own thing, but sometimes that's a bit of a crutch, or that's just a bit of a one of the we like to make these little stories that we can live by as artists, that we do things a certain way, and I'm all for that. But there's a point where, you know, there's a lot to learn from people that have done this before us, and
Yeah.
why not? And I mentioned that in the video. I regret, not regret, that's a strong word, but I would always write my own stuff. And so I could do my own thing, but I wish that I would have spent more time learning, which is so much easier to do now because YouTube
Yeah.
is just such an incredible teacher.
Yeah.
And as far as you can find exactly what you want to learn and learn it. So,
But go to
uh,
the source. Go to the original person who played it. Go to the original recording. Don't
yeah,
take 15 other people's versions of what they think they played because it's often filled with wrong notes, wrong chords, and wrong
yeah,
articulation, phrasing, and
yeah.
getting it out. That touch is completely different. Uh, like for a while, I was the one that had started all the playing classes that played the Beatles music at Berklee College of Music. And in those early days, students came in loving the Beatles, knowing the Beatles, and very familiar with the frame of reference of what they sounded like and how they played their instruments. Since then, there's been many, many generations later, people are coming in and all they have is Hendrix influence or Joe
Hmm.
Satriani influence. And when they go to play those licks, they don't sound like George or Paul or John playing those licks. They sound like
Hmm.
Satriani or Hendrix. And they can't get that out of their playing. I say, that's
Yeah,
fine, but you can't have only that flavor. Like,
yeah.
do at least 14 other guitar players and get more flavors so that you don't sound like a clone, but you can start to sound like yourself and you're capable of making any kind of noise and sound or phrasing that you
Hmm.
want. The idea is to give yourself goosebumps playing these things, these instruments, the way your favorite heroes have, so that you feel like you're really doing it right, and it
Hmm.
feels fulfilling. Because if it's going to move you, it's going to move somebody else.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
fun. Now, the other video I noticed, you were talking to your friend. You were saying, "This is my songwriting therapist." You were concerned about writing lyrics. How much time was between publishing that video and you maybe readdressing that? What have you been doing to write lyrics that have been helpful to you now since that
Well, I
video?
have not. I have not been, and that's actually something I'm thinking a lot about now because part of my main business that I'm in is I write for music libraries, and in that video, I think I mentioned that to me, it's just so much more difficult to write songs with lyrics, and I needed to create a lot of music, and so I just kind of turned that part of my brain off and started writing as much instrumental music as possible. And so, yeah, it's been hard turning that back on, but I'm endeavoring on a new project where I'm going to have to do that. And so, uh, yeah, that's going to be a focus for the next couple months for sure. But it is interesting. I don't know if I'm alone in this, but uh, yeah, I don't know. I'm a harsh critic of all my words. I'm not good at letting things go unless I think that they are perfect, whatever my version of perfect is.
Mm.
And I can get myself in a rut pretty quick. So that is one point of emphasis for the next couple weeks and months is getting some of those thoughts down.
Have you heard of the book Writing Down the Bones by Natalie Goldberg?
No,
It's a really cool book about writing and
I'm gonna
writing anything. And
writing down the bones.
she's always talking about getting back to beginner's mind, which is a whole Zen way of looking at it. There's also a lot of the Pattison approaches.
Hmm.
He's a teacher at Berkeley that I had even when I was a student. And two of his cool things are free association and object writing.
Yes, I
And
uh, I taught. I used that book, the Writing Better Lyrics book, when
okay,
I taught.
right.
It was kind of a beginner level course, so we didn't get too deep into songwriting, but that was a book that we referenced.
But I often feel the way you do about lyrics because I don't read hundreds of books a year the way some of my friends do. And I am very musical in the sense that I'm instrumental, I feel. Like I can feel like there are chords that I fall in love with and I can like live in a chord or two, like some of the textures and the sounds and the soundscapes that you create when I was listening to them.
Hmm.
It was like, yeah, these are gorgeous. I could just live here. They just feel like you're surrounded by these beautiful sounds and it's just a gorgeous place to be. And I'm also very introverted for a college professor in a sense because of the artist side. So I
Yeah.
have to consciously turn on the lyrics. But I'm very playful with words because of the Beatles and how crazy they were. I mean, the nuttiness of them and the freedom of that is what I
Hmm.
grew up with. So for me, I like the beginner's mind idea that Natalie gets into because it's like really at first, if you're just doing a draft, anything goes.
Hmm.
Why not, like free association, just fill a page full of nothing? And the
Yeah.
idea is if you're playing with a mandolin like you do, or a ukulele, or a drum, or a bass, or something, it's like if you're playing around with the stuff, the instruments, you will come up with ideas that those things generate. If you play with words, you also come up with words. So if I just do a brain dump and fill a page, I have whole notebooks full of just nonsense, just any
Hmm.
sense that comes to my mind, including the judgment of how stupid is this. But I do love fountain pens on smooth paper. And, like
Yeah.
just the writing tools themselves, enjoying playing with the tools. Then all of a sudden it gets into a layer that's a little deeper and it's not a journal. It's just gibberish. But then I don't judge it or look at it or care about it. Because I think the mistake we make is we think it has to be a brilliant lyric right off the bat.
Hmm.
And none of them often come off that way at first. It's very often a thing where it's several drafts and we don't see people working on those, so we don't think we're doing it
Yeah.
right. But we're humans. We do it the same way everybody does it. Like one of the examples I always give is John Lennon walking around Bermuda and seeing the flowers for sale, and they're called Double Fantasy. And everybody thinks it just came out of his head that it was a fantastic title and isn't he a genius? And of course he is, but we all are because we're all humans and we all have a spirit and we all have this fantastic magic inside of us. And all we have to do is remember how to use it. And so he was able to see that and make it go ding. That is a fantastic thing I could use. Because
Hmm.
when we start thinking that we can't and words aren't our thing, we close it off. And then, even when beautiful phrases like that are popping up in the world, we're not catching them because,
Hmm.
like, the reticular activating system is not paying attention to that. But as soon as you
Hmm.
tell your brain, hey, we're looking for words, we're looking for something to write about, looking for something for that second verse. Then, when I go to a movie or something, somebody says something in the film, and I go, that's exactly the word I was looking for. You know, stuff like that happens, and it's really fun.
Yeah, I made back in the mid 2000s, late 2000s, I released an album of kind of folk songs and a singer-songwriter, and I just remember being so locked into the process, and I worked so hard at it, and I was more receptive and aware of the ideas and the little words and the little things that would pop up. And I do better job at notes and that kind of thing. And yeah, it's like exercising or whatever. When you let it go, you often have to kind of start over again and work your way back into that mindset. And that's something I would like to do. It's just hours in the day and outlets competing. I have quite a few things going on in my brain, and sometimes I just jump from one project to the next, and I need to find some ways to
Sure.
simplify that.
Yeah. But the cool thing then when you go back to that writing, it's like I don't go back and read any of it because I know it's nonsense. But
Hmm.
if I have a guitar idea all of a sudden, then I'm like, oh, wow, I'm feeling that thing come over me. I could write a song right now. What words have I got? What is there to sing? And very often when I'm playing, it's like a very Paul Simon kind of moment where he says he gets attached to a vowel sound and you
Mm,
just dinkity dinkity oh, and some kind of vowel sound pops in your mind and it feels like that's the right sound that should be there. So you say the word oh, or you say the word how, or whatever the vowel sound is, and for some reason, it's like, okay, good, I might have one piece of the puzzle because that feels like a good moment. And then you start adding a rhyme, a bad rhyme, or use something in the free association that catches your mind, your attention, and you throw that in and you're singing a sentence. You have no idea what you're even talking about, you know?
yeah.
But it starts to come together like a puzzle that you haven't seen the box top for. And to me, I'm okay with not knowing. When I was talking to Eric Mazel, who's written over 50 books on creativity, he was saying a lot of artists have trouble with the fact of not knowing. And it bugs
Yeah.
them and it's irritating and frustrating. But to me, I don't mind the challenge. I don't care if it takes even a few weeks. I know I can write a song in an hour, but if this one takes a while, that's fine. I'm not in any kind of hurry usually. But then the object writing is a whole other thing. It's like you know you want to write a song about a specific thing and you let yourself prose free write about it, and then sometimes a line pops out
Hmm.
about what you want to say. Like writing a love song once, I went back and read it after I had some music, and I saw the phrase "wish upon me," and I thought, "There's that's the title." So I wrote a song
Yeah.
called "Wish Upon Me." You know, so these things accidentally happen when you're allowing it to open and spend a little time there and not feel bad that you haven't spent time there before. Like you're saying, your brain has so many things that it's trying to accomplish and jobs that you're working on, but to be open and playful and say, but I know words are in there and they will happen. And I know I haven't been putting time in it, but it's going to be okay because I expect that they'll show. And when I need them, they'll be there for me. Like that kind of expectation and ease about it actually helps me get back into the groove of what that might be or anything else I have to do.
Hmm. Yeah. I That's inspiring. It makes me. You got me thinking about how when we get off this call here, I might have to sit down and write a bunch of nonsense down on paper.
Scratch away.
Get
Well,
started.
it's funny. I'm explaining that to a class one day. I give them all that assignment. Fill a page with a bunch of gibberish. See if you can write a couple of lines of a lyric from it, and then come up with some kind of melody and chords for it, you know? So that's their assignment. This one guy brings in this tune, and the first thing was, please read your blurb, then read us your lyric, and then play us your song. So he reads us the blurb, and it's single words separated by commas. It's not even full thoughts, sentences, or phrases, or funny rhymes or anything. It's just single stupid words like you could pull off the top of your head, like fret, box, door, shower, amp, pick, pickle. You know, like it just doesn't make you're like, dude, you didn't really do the assignment, you know? And he reads his lyric and we all go, oh. And then he plays us the song and we'll go, I want to write a song like that. Yeah, like it was
Wow.
so wild. So I have a song called Sometimes that started off like that. And there's just a page of words separated by commas. I put it in another video and it's words like riddle and star-filled ceiling and beyond and talk and whatever, just stupid random things. But one day, a month later, I'm playing my acoustic. I've got this really interesting progression going on, and I go, okay, where's my word book? Where's the word book? Grab it. And because I had a cold and my voice wasn't happening, I saw the words beyond talk. And so as
Huh.
soon as I said beyond talk, my brain said, I am tired and needing this change because we were going to be in between semesters. And it
Hmm.
triggered a feeling and an emotion because I was weepy and not feeling good because your face hurts and you have a cold and I don't even have a voice. I sound kind of like Peter Gabriel, you know. And I'm singing Beyond Talk, I'm tired and needing this change. And then I saw star-filled ceiling. So I said, oh, okay, behind lights, because I had those fake stars on my ceiling, behind lights where my star-filled ceiling remains. And then I said, hey, wait, look, you got two-syllable words starting with be something. I said, what other two-syllable words are there? So I went behind, beneath, between, before, behave. Like I just threw those in the ledger line there, you know, like just
Hmm.
in my own, just top off the top of my head, what other two, maybe I could start all the sentences that way because I'm starting to notice a pattern and maybe this will help me get somewhere with this tune. And then eventually I got to the chorus and I thought, what am I going to say now? And I just put my head up and there were clouds. And I said, sometimes life takes all day. Sometimes life gets in the way because that was what I was saying in those days. They were phrases because all I want to do is write songs and make music. And I've got life to do as well, you know. But one of the other verses was beneath clouds where a smile could surrender this frown because again, I wasn't feeling good. So like you could use anything if you realize that it could be fuel for you or kindling. You know, you
Hmm.
have to allow the seeds to gather. You have to be willing to explore, and you've got to be okay with not knowing and just see what it has the potential to turn into, and then have the patience to turn it into something you really like. Like, I don't want to get on my case and edit it too soon. I know this part's weak or this part isn't Joni Mitchell yet or John Lennon yet, but I could get it there. I think if I just give it a little time, it'll simmer and I'll think about what I want it to be. Or when I look at it fresh, like another perspective, when you stand back and look at a painting or a photograph from another angle, you start to see more possibilities of what you can turn it into. And then on another day, it's fresh brain. It's even better, you know? So the
Hmm.
idea is like, don't edit too soon and don't kill it before it grows. And let it start off free and easy. And then you can have as many songs with lyrics as you do instrumentals if you care to, because playing with words is fun too. And you're a
Hmm.
great articulator, you know, like you're great at making videos and telling people how you really feel. And to put that down in a lyric isn't really that much different.
Yeah. And we have the music to help it all make sense
That's
as
the part I
well.
like the best. Yeah.
You know, we can, if you leave a few questions unanswered in the lyric, well, maybe the music answers that question
Certainly.
without having to state it. I tend to end up writing very clear songs, like this is how I feel. This is what the song is about. This is,
Mm,
and yet so many of my favorite songs, I don't understand what they mean on a certainly not on a word to word level. I mean, I get the overall concept, but I
exactly.
don't even think twice about the phrases that perhaps don't, aren't spelled out on a fifth grade level to me.
Right.
They do something that the way they put those words together does something to me, and perhaps even the lack of clarity is what allows me to connect with it because then I can make it whatever I want for me.
I love that.
I forget it's not so important that I communicate my thoughts exactly. It's that the listener connects with it for themselves, that it does something to them and helps them through something or helps them think about something in a different way or, uh,
True.
yeah.
And being the same species, really, if it's going to move you or tickle you, or just
Hmm.
feel good or look good on the paper to you right there, it's going to look good or feel good or connect with somebody else. Like you don't even have to worry about that necessarily. It's like
Hmm.
just do the right thing of help that idea grow up and have its own
Hmm.
heartbeat and get into the world. You know, like that's our job. Um, I don't see the competition or the this is good, this is bad kind of thing in any of it, because it's like, oh, come on, it's not sports, you know? It's
Yeah.
like this is just a thing, and if you connect with it, great. It's like you love chocolate, you love strawberry. I don't want to start a war over it. I think it's great. Enjoy what you enjoy. In fact, I'd rather know why you enjoy it or how and when you fell in love with it, because then it opens me up to understanding a little bit more about strawberry, you know?
Mhm.
That's how it was with jazz with a friend of mine when we were students. It was like Berkeley and jazz. Oh my God, there was so much jazz, so much jazz. And we didn't get it at first. We were like, what's the big deal? It's just that the college was born during that era, you know? And
Mhm.
when we had young friends our age also in love with it, it was nice to see jazz through their eyes and hear it from their fingers and from their heart. Then it made sense to me, you know?
Mhm.
So we're like portals for each other into new dimensions and new excitements, new flavors. If somebody's doing it in a nice, honest way and not throwing it down your throat or saying, you know, they're going to kill you if you don't buy this or do this or you're going
Yeah.
to get a bad grade because you're not jazz.
Yeah.
So funny.
It is interesting.
Who are some of your favorite musicians or songwriters or even film scorers at this point?
I I kind of had this musical moment um, when I was in college. I had written these fingerstyle instrumental guitar pieces, and a buddy of mine who was a little bit more established than me was helping me record them. And so I drove from uh, College Station, Texas, where I went to school at the time, to this little town called Beaumont. And I was given two CDs. One was a guy named David Wilcox, songwriter, and uh, Mark Cohn, who wrote the song Walking in Memphis. And between David Wilcox's songwriting, just blew me away. Very, singer songwriter, storyteller, and the production of these Mark Cohn albums blew me away as well.
Yeah,
John Leventhal was the producer,
I love his work.
and so those two will forever be like, that was a time period where I'm doing this awesome thing. I think my grandmother let me use a couple $1,000s to make this recording, and uh, it was really the last recording that someone else did for me. Ever since then, I've always done my own stuff. But yeah, just those two artists and the songwriting and the sounds will forever be like this big moment that kind of changed the way that I thought about how I wanted to write music and the sounds that I really liked. And it was good and bad. In some ways, those weren't the most popular sounds out there. So I didn't, of course, I was into things like Coldplay and all that. But I've always been more of e- even though I wasn't around for cassettes in the recording time, I've always been more of a B-sides type of producer. And I like the songs that the fans really like, but maybe aren't as popular. And so, but there was just something about those two artists that still I can put those albums on, and they're very, very meaningful for me. And before that, I don't know, I grew up as a kid in the 90s, so there were all those 90s rock bands, and I was always real involved in church. So, a lot of the Christian music was stuff that I was connected to as well. But yeah, I would say those two artists kind of changed the game for me, the way that I think about, how I like to approach making music.
Yeah, that's very cool. I love when there's guideposts and goals sonically. It's like, that's a
Hmm.
good sound, you know? Like I've been noticing lately that there are some songs I like that are current, but a lot of times I don't like the production sound of them. And then you go
Hmm.
back a couple of decades and you're listening and you go, whoa, real instruments, real people playing them, really amazing musicianship. Ew, that's a big difference. I like that. Like I
Yeah.
almost like it better than what's happening lately, and
Yeah.
it's like I don't want to be outdated by things, but it's like you're still going to like what you like. So it depends on when I'm listening. It's like if I'm listening to be fed, I might have to go back a few decades. But if I'm listening for curiosity's sake and some production techniques that are wild and new, that would be today.
Well, one thing that's interesting though is whether it's good or bad, we're much more splintered now. It's not like there are as many rock stars and as many obvious people that are well known. I mean, there and what was it? Something Rick Beato in one of his videos talked about how like only 5% of the music streamed is current. We've just got you can like a sound, and in previous times when maybe that sound became dated, well now you can find your people. The most amazing thing about YouTube for
Hmm.
me, just to shift the conversation slightly, is that you know I, I the people that watch my video are not from my hometown. They're not people that know me or grew up with me, but through this crazy medium we can connect and find people that think about life and music the same way, and that
Hmm.
that is for everybody. And it means that now sometimes musicians have to do things like, no one wants, most of us kind of force ourselves to do social media and that kind of thing. I mean, some people just love it, but most of us force ourselves to do it because we know we have to, just to kind of get our art out there. But there's just all these little outlets now, and there's these paths to make the thing that really inspires you and not have to worry as much about whether or not it's going to chart in 2023. So we'll see what that means moving forward. I mean, and I think the ability to play an instrument will become even more and more valuable, as a lot of people are not. And one thing we're dealing with, especially in my side of the business and kind of the music library business, is no one, we don't like to talk about AI and all that, but it is going to come, and it is going to, some of these skills that are, you know, easy to do on a computer can be uh, can be recreated, but there aren't going to be many robots picking up guitars and going to play at the bar. So I think there's going to be a premium on the skills that we have that we didn't think twice about. That's just what you had to do to make music when we were
Right,
starting, and now it's
right.
there's just different ways to do it, and I love it all. I mean, I some of it I don't get, of course. It doesn't move me, but you know,
Hmm.
I'm I'm open to whatever, and however people want to make music. You do get into some areas of, there's a lot of pre-made material that you can press a few buttons, and so where is there art in that? Is there art? But then there have been remixes forever since the beginning. So that can be artistic as well. There are a lot of questions about all of that, and you could spend hours on it.
Yeah.
But I'm not as I've seen a lot of people get to a point where they get kind of negative about things because they weren't the way they used to be. And of course, I am nostalgic for times, but there's still kids popping up with incredible ideas, as I'm sure from teaching. They
Yeah.
just had that thing inside them, and they want to figure it out, and they want to create unique things, and they're using the tools that they have.
Yeah, and I think we'll all just use any of the new tools in any creative ways we see fit. We'll
Hmm.
find positive ways to do it. Um, so far, with some of the music things I've heard generated from AI or even essays written and paragraphs written, you can kind of tell right now that it's AI,
Yeah.
but it'll probably get better. I
Yeah.
certainly love what they did for the Beatles' Get Back.
Oh yeah.
Those videos and cleaning up all those tracks was
Yeah.
miraculous because I had over 60 hours of audio from that month of them working together, and it was impossible to listen to because you
Hmm.
hear just noise and clattering and voices in the back talking about something, and then you turn it up to hear the voices and then something feeds back, and it was just horrible. And I just thought, well, it's nice that these exist and someone shared them with me, but they're they're impossible to listen to, you
Yeah.
know. So
Well, we've always been afraid of change. And eventually some of the change could be really, really bad. But some of it's going to be fantastic. And, it's how you use it and the way you ethically use things. I mean, there's always going to be choices about ethics, as far as how we use certain things. And there's nothing different. But yeah, I'm all for the tools if they help. And I'm 44. I am not ready to shut off technology in my life. I'm not. I don't. There's a point where it seems like you can get where you're done learning the new stuff,
oh, that
and
sounds
even
scary.
though I get
Yeah.
very, I mean, I was trying to set up a Discord server the other day, and I had to get my 13-year-old to help me do it, and he was flying through it and getting it all set up, and so I'm realizing that there will absolutely be a day pretty soon when I'm going to be unable to handle that, but I'm not there yet. And so I'm not going to be as quick to just, you know, all of this stuff is bad. I want to try to use my best discerning brain to figure out what can
Right.
help and what can hurt. I use things all the time, you know, this communication things. Hey, can you help me sound a little bit better in this email here, and then they write chat gpt writes something that doesn't sound like me at all, so I've got to figure out how to take what it thought was better and I'm like, oh, that was better, and so I still got to use my brain. But yeah, that stuff's going to get
Put it
it,
into your voice. Yeah.
it will start to know who we are. And all right, it is scary. I don't want to talk about it anymore. I'm sorry for bringing
I think they said too that right now, if you're using it, you're contributing to it. So whatever your style of speaking and thinking is going to make it smarter and maybe take some of your ideas and give them to somebody else. So now
yeah,
people are trying to make money on here's a little way for you to stay private within it and it never uses your stuff. And I don't think they have anything diced up to sell that they know is going to be here in 5 to 10 years anyway. So I'm not buying anything.
yeah,
But I love technology too, as you can see. I
yeah.
have
Well,
always been
you've got a nice rack of gear behind you, that's for sure.
yeah, there's some
That's
fun stuff there, and then there's a whole logic side over here with some things. So
all right.
goes over to the I could just stay on the logic side, or I could do some tape, or I could do some hybrid things. Um, so yeah, I'm trying to figure out how I want to best work now. I've been laughing about how I've made it kind of complicated.
Yeah,
But it's a blast, and so learning new things is going to always be where it's at. In fact, that's one of the reasons I started having these conversations. I thought I need adult company, you know,
that makes sense.
and I want to talk to other artists that are at my level. Like I
Yeah,
don't necessarily only want to be sharing things with the young ones. That's fine. I love find what you love and share it. I'm all about it. I've been teaching at Berkeley now 40 years,
wow.
but it's like I need to be fed. You
Yeah,
have to take care of all your different hungers, all your different artist sides too. So uh, I guess it's like you say, coming off the pandemic, where you're saying you wanted to get together with folks now in Texas, saying, "Where are we? Who are we? How fragmented are we? You want to get together? What are you working on? What are you doing?
yeah.
Like get back to the real connections again." And thankfully, I can hand pick people now off YouTube and say, "Hey, I'd like to meet you."
Yeah, and this format has really gotten, I think at first when we all had to jump online and talk to people, it was awkward, but now everybody has improved their setups. They figured out how to make themselves not look terribly exposed on, the camera. And
Right.
it's still, there's a disconnect obviously because we're talking through a screen, but it can be extremely valuable. And I found myself connected to so many people that I never would have even possibly connected. So it's just different. Um,
It's
you know, we
addition.
We
in
can't shake hands, but or give each other a hug, but we can certainly have meaningful conversations. And
Yeah.
uh, so thankful to technology for making that. I'm sure that the pandemic expedited a lot of these
Oh, definitely.
that would have taken 5 or 6 more years maybe to get to the point that they are now.
Yeah. And I like that technology has made things less expensive so all this kind of stuff can be possible for us, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah.
For a while, it was, a computer took up a whole room and it took
Yeah.
all day to say, see the dog, or something,
Oh yeah. Even I guess I came along at the time where it actually became an affordable thing for this some the committed musician, recording engineer. It was still thousands of dollars to get a computer, and Digi 001 was my first piece of. I'm sure you remember that, and and it was a lot of money to me for sure, but it wasn't like buying a huge console and tape machine and that and such. So
right.
yeah, I'm the yeah, I hit right that at that time, and I always joke like the first day I decided I want to do this, I want to be in the record business, and what is this thing called Napster? What is that? That's interesting? And so those will forever be linked. My decision to get in that world, and then the downfall. And at least we've kind of figured some things out,
Yeah.
and these new opportunities are there. But there was more doom and gloom, I think, for the business then than there is now, just because we didn't know what to do.
And what kind of production classes were you teaching?
I taught a kind of an intro to production. I think we called it song crafting.
Hmm.
I actually walked in and something happened and they needed somebody to write new material. So I basically wrote a class on how to get started writing music in the computer. And it touched on some basic music theory, but then we got right into just songwriting ideas and creating we did some kind of film scoring. Uh, it was just as a way to force students to think about writing in a specific emotion
Hmm.
that matched up to whatever that film was. And it was constantly evolving. I'd probably do something different now, but it wasn't a school. Our students probably much different than yours. We had a lot of students that were just there for live sound or
This is
you
college
know
level?
yes, but it's more like a now the school has evolved, and they offer like a associate's degree, and so they take the English and math classes along with the production courses. But I'm just saying there weren't a ton of people who were all that interested in creating music in the computer. So I was kind of selling this idea as well, and we were working
Hmm.
at a very very basic level for the most part. Although there were some that came through that were fantastic, so I would try to give them a little extra
Yeah. I
one
guess
on
I meant
one.
college age.
Yes, college age. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. That's helpful.
But I didn't know what I was doing at the start. I did not. I'd never taught before. I found out like a couple days before I got the curriculum, and I read it and I read it, and I taught a lesson and then read it and taught the next lesson. And uh, but
That's how you
over the
learn things really well.
yeah, and but over about the course of about 5 years, I really kind of found my groove. And then I started doing this other stuff that I'm doing. So I would just kind of drop classes here and there. And I do miss that part of it. And I think that's why I was able to that's that component that I was able to draw from when I started YouTube,
Yeah.
was getting my thoughts together, at least uh, a way that made some sense. And I had to learn how to talk into a camera. And I am a product of editing. If you saw, sometimes I'll put things up where I'm not edited, and you know, I I'm
Different.
proud of my editing skills. Let me just say that because there's a lot of meandering when I know what I like. What's funny is when you hear yourself edited properly, and it's like my words without all the pauses and out all the buts and so's and knows, and I hear
Right.
it back, and I'm like, that person is sharp. And then, and you know what? But this is the same thing with music. I
Exactly.
remember trying to learn a part, piecing it all together, and I knew that it was not a performance that I could put together in front of people. However, once I heard it was all me. It was just edited together. But once I heard it and I could listen back to it and it was me, well, then I had this very clear goal.
Mhm.
I wasn't trying to be somebody else. I was trying to be the best version of me.
Nice.
And that's still difficult, but it's much more attainable. And that's exactly how talking into a camera has been. It's like once I see what I actually sound like when I can
Mhm.
craft it the way I want, well, then I can work towards that being that person, that
Mhm.
communicator in real life. Just the weird things that you learn when you do this.
Yeah,
But
lots of
and
fun.
that's the other thing that's been so fun is the parallels between writing music and writing production music, which kind of involves writing a lot of material
Yeah.
and making YouTube. The parallels are so like at any skill level, I believe you can write a song that could be used by somebody else in a music for media type of situation. I think there's something anybody can write in the most simplest form. And you can work to get that thing. And that's kind of how YouTube is. They're everybody's got a video in them or something. But then there's a whole nother thing, which is okay, can I continue to grow? Can I continue to add to that? Can I
Mhm.
continue to add skills? Can I continue to get better? And I can listen back to my catalog and hopefully I and you can hear the progression and kind of the cool thing. One of my favorite things about YouTube is that unless people take their videos down, you can go way back
Mhm.
and see what they were like when they first started. Like there's a one of the big tech YouTubers, his name is Marquez. He is the new iPhone comes out, whatever. He's the guy gets millions of views. But his first video, I think he was 15. It was on a webcam, and you can totally see Marquez in that video. But it was also kind of awful. But he did it, made the next. And I think that's one thing that's different about our generation now as opposed to previous generations where it was all about sharing your best.
Mm.
Now, even though you can definitely see some issues with it, you can see people grow as an artist, and that's inspiring to
Definitely.
watch. And it also helps when you're watching it. You're like, okay, maybe I can do that. I love that quite a few people have started making YouTube videos because they watched my videos. I think there's something about me that's kind of like, well, if John can do it, I can do it. There's that mindset because I don't think I come across as any, spectacular talent here. And I love seeing that people do that. They're like, I watched a bunch of videos and I thought I'm going to give this a try too. But I know I'm, it's like a parent to the kid. You're like, okay, go for it. You're about to find out how challenging it is, and that's why we have such a bond between other people that do this and other musicians, is
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
if they're good, we know what it took. Like we know what was required to get to that point as an engineer, producer, guitar player. If you're talented at it, it didn't just drop in your hands overnight. It was years of sacrifice and years of focus and intentional learning. And because of that, we now have something that we have a bond that is it's like a little private club that we're in. We speak a certain language and and we just have appreciation for one another. And it's
That's good.
also why when people, I'm all for people that talk a bigger game and maybe they are on a different level. Maybe God did shine down on them something special and unique, which I know there are many out there that do that. Uh, but some people pretend to have a certain aura about them. And to me, that's not what I am attracted to. I'm attracted to the people that are like, there's a problem that I want to solve. And and how can I was talking to a buddy of mine who is also a YouTuber, and he's done really well with he makes these videos where he will build something musically or come up and he tells the story of it. And both of us joke with how we always look for the most difficult way to tell the most difficult time consuming way to tell a story. It's like there's an easy way and then there's the way that we have some elaborate
Okay.
idea. And now I know, oh, that's going to take 8 hours for 15 seconds in this video. But that's kind of what it takes to communicate what you want to communicate. And if that's it, that's what you've got to do. Um, so, anyways, I'm rambling and going all over the place, but I
Mm,
just I don't even know how we got here, but I'm fascinated by the working class musician and and their their journey and how they got there and the things they've done to get there and the things they've done to support themselves while they tried to do, because some people have been lucky to make music directly or make money directly from music, but most of us have done other things, and those other things contribute to who we are and changed our music, and even the things you think have nothing to do with it is part of who you are and shapes the way you create.
yeah. Do you have other hobbies and things besides photography and videography?
Um, Badminton.
Yeah.
I started
That
playing
works.
badminton at the rec center, and I love it.
Nice.
And I used to play golf, but it's about 115 degrees every day here in Texas, so that's not going to happen. But I just videography was a hobby, and it kind of became this new thing with YouTube.
Yeah.
So I guess I need to find some hobbies outside of all
This.
this, but I don't know. It doesn't feel like work for the most part. I'm very aware that I get to do something that doesn't feel like work, you know.
That's cool.
I mean, yes, it does. I'm just very well aware that I've kind of, even though I've worked really hard for it, I've kind of fallen into some special outlets that I can make a decent living doing things that I really enjoy.
Mm.
And I think about all the time, which is a problem because I'm never able to turn it off. I don't.
Well, yeah, talk more about your creative process. You say you're writing lots and lots of music. So, what do you have to do to get in the mood for that, or what sets up how you get into it? Is it different types of moods that start on different types of instruments?
Well, I will say that I don't write near as much music as I did before I started YouTube and started,
Because your
one of the,
library is so big now.
well, it's gotten quite bigger and I work with quite a few people who write for it, but it's really just the time and in order, it's kind of confusing, but the thing that got me into YouTube was because I started making sample libraries through this other guy who was a YouTuber who sent a bunch of people my way. And like thousands of people showed up overnight to my YouTube channel. And I'm like, wow, this is cool. I like making YouTube videos. And so I started, sampling instruments, deep sampling and then making them to where, artists could use them. A flute randomly and a violin was one that people really enjoyed. And I found that I really liked that. You know,
Cool.
it's
Sound design.
yeah, and there's so many sounds out there that it just feels like you're cycling through presets or whatever. But this process is very much like a boutique way of looking at it. Here is this sound. How can I make this sound? How can I recreate it in a way that either represents what it is or something totally different? Like
Sure.
combine these sounds and it plays back in a totally different way.
Because that's what happens in
And
an orchestra. You know,
yeah,
if there's a line of music, sometimes three or four different instruments with different timbres are playing that same thing, and you can't really tell
exactly.
which instruments are doing it. So
But
it's
I've
really
really
cool.
enjoyed that process of making those, and that's time consuming. And that's honestly made it easier for me to make YouTube videos because every YouTuber has to figure out a way to make some money doing it, and the money that it pays for views is not near enough, especially in a niche category like I'm in. So selling sample libraries has really been helpful to that process, and I'm starting to collaborate with more people on that. It's
Cool.
all what's in my head is almost like a record label type of model, where I work with other artists who make these samples and we create them together as opposed to me just making them all
That's fun.
myself. So I don't know how well that's all going to work out, but it's been a lot of fun thinking about it. And I've got a few lined up. I'm about to go and to Nashville and work with a guy who we sampled a violin a couple years ago, and it's done very well. And as far as free downloads, it's a free offering that I have. And so
Mm-hmm.
we're going to try to make it into something. And it's been neat because it's been used all over the world, and it's also I featured him in the video that we made about it, and he has had some people reach out to him about recording on their projects because of it. So to me, that's the best case scenario, is that it lets people know about um, these artists, and also everyone could profit from it. That's in its purest form. That's certainly what I'm trying to pursue. So that has taken the place of writing music. Back to your question, it's certainly at the level. What it's done though is it has let me write more of what I want to write. Because sometimes you're tasked with writing things that you don't love as much, which is kind of part of the deal.
Mm.
But this allows me to and I can tell a story oftentimes through my channel on the process of writing. Uh, Recently I got a mandolin, and it was so top of mind that I was learning how to play it. It made sense that would something I would show the process of on the channel. Or I took um, a video that's done one of my first videos to do really. If you look on my channel, there's like a very clear amount of views, and then there's some that just go crazy. It's really frustrating, and it's awesome, but it's like, what's going on here? I made a video of a lap steel that I put these benders on it so you can bend the strings.
Right.
And it was just a fun DIY project, and super cheap. And so, of course, that made it. That was just an itch that I wanted to scratch. And then I bought a cheap guitar and put a piece of rubber underneath the bridge.
That
And
was the
that,
first video of yours I saw. That
oh,
was fun.
I'm sorry. And that's done quite well. But that was honestly me watching a YouTube video, going to Guitar Center just on a whim. And so now I'm writing some tunes that kind of feature that.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that James Jamerson trick. Put a little piece of sponge or something on each
Oh yeah.
bridge, and that kind of idea. And I did that to one of my guitars and recorded with it a few years ago. But that was the first video that was served up to me from YouTube of yours. I thought, oh, who's this guy? Let me watch this. And it was really fun. I love the way you put it together and all the different aspects of getting the guitar to play well and then have a pickup and all that good stuff. So, yeah, that was really well made. That was fun.
Well, thank you. I tried to make it clear that I'm just watching YouTube videos as I go, trying to figure these things out.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
most of the time we go to YouTube because, well, sometimes we go to it for entertainment, but most of the time we have a problem that we
Right.
need somebody to help us solve. And so I'm trying to figure out a way to help people solve problems, but also, you know, in an artistic way, try to show that I'm just trying to figure this stuff out. I want, I want, if there's anything that I'm proud of, about myself, which is weird to say. But I am okay with learning new things and trying to figure stuff out. I love that. And that's what I just want to do. And so it, I also have to show you that I don't know what I'm doing in order to show you that I'm trying to figure it out. And so I try to do that in a funny way, or at least it's funny to me and my family. But
Yeah,
I
when you recruit them to be in on it, it's pretty funny.
yeah,
Yeah,
they're around all the time, so they might as well show
be
up on
extras.
occasion.
They might as well
Yeah.
be extras. Yeah, that's funny. I know a lot of folks who do all these different creative things that we do, and because they've never had the need or the opportunity to talk about it other than a radio interview or TV interview, because they don't teach, they really don't know how to talk about it. So they're
Hmm.
not even interested in coming on and talking about things with me because they're like, you just do stuff. What's so interesting about that? You know,
Yeah.
we just do what we do. But when you have to teach something, and I've been giving guitar lessons for over 50 years, it's like you encounter all kinds of personalities.
Hmm.
And the thing that worked when you told the last person doesn't work for this person. Or in a class, three of them out of the eight get it, and you've got to find 15 different ways for the next few classes to just reach each person so that it makes
Hmm.
sense to something they already know. And you've got to find a way to put into words what it is we actually do, or maybe even what steps you need to take to get started because they've never done it before and they coming to me for the shortcut, right? So
Yeah.
like we end up, especially if you're making videos then and you're just learning how to do it yourself, you're saying, okay, well, here's the three mistakes I made first, so don't cut it like that, you know.
Yeah.
Keep cutting it and cutting it and it's still too short. You know, it's like you have to find a way to express what it is. And so seeing all those steps or hearing about the mistakes first does really help a lot of other folks. And I go to YouTube for everything. But I started my YouTube channel in 2006 when it was just a MySpace or something like that,
Yeah.
you know? And so a lot of my first videos are bad handheld
Yeah.
webcam kind of mini DV cameras and Super 8 cameras that were transferred and digitized. And the oldest thing that's on there, I'm 11 years old. My father had a film camera, a high 8 camera, and a little cassette deck that supposedly had a sync cable, but we never saw it in sync till it got digitized a few years ago. And my friends at a media company put the two together, and it's like there's me and my brother singing at 11 and 10 years old, the first
Oh
two
wow.
songs I ever wrote. So it's like a time traveling machine to be able to go back to old videos and films. And my channel never had any kind of specific, like it's there for any reason in particular. So some of my videos that were of my Beatle band that I was in, touring around for 12 years, they've got like 200,000 views. But as far as subscribers, there's like 800 subscribers. You know, it's like
Yeah.
there was no subscribe or ring the notification bell. Those things didn't exist then.
Yeah.
So even YouTube has evolved and technology has changed and social media exploded and people are using things for different reasons. You know, it's interesting.
Hmm.
It's not just a catch-all for all your home videos.
Oh yeah. No, there's an importance on finding a clear way to communicate. And I've struggled with that too because I do like to do a lot of different things. And even though to me it seems very focused, it's not, doesn't come across that way when people, you know, find my channel. I mean, for instance, that guitar video, it got pushed out into the big world of YouTube more than my other videos because a lot more people play guitar than compose music or care about licensing music. And so even then, it comes down to a very clear focus on what it is that you're trying to do. Um, and when you get
YouTube's
that
got the
right,
playlists for that though, you know? It's like you look at the playlist, you see various topics. Makes
yeah,
sense. If any of them appeal, you watch John's videos on this, you know?
yeah,
It's not that hard. I mean, it's almost like a card catalog. You go to the library, everything's there, and
Yeah.
you narrow it down, but I don't think each person's channel should only be one thing.
Yeah.
Maybe for marketing, that's what they're suggesting, but again, not everything that gets put into some how-to book about how to make it on social media or on YouTube or
Mhm.
whatever, or even as a songwriter, is going to appeal to me.
Yeah.
It's like, uh, I'm a Beatle at heart. We do things the way we want to, and
Yeah, that's a class all in itself is
totally.
navigating the world of instruction versus figuring it out yourself. Like
Mhm.
you've got to we talked about this earlier, you've got to take people's advice, you've got to learn things that other people did, but you've also got to trust your instincts. And it doesn't feel like it feels like if there's a line here, I'm constantly moving. It's not like a bullseye that you hit.
No,
It's just so there's
every
moments where
now.
you realize, I'm thinking way too much about what other people might think about this, including the algorithm. And then there are moments where I'm like, you know what, I need to focus a little bit more here because that will help me as a creator as well. So it's there's a struggle there and a tension there that I think is always going to be present in the modern creator, who's trying to, I talk a lot about this tension between art and commerce. I mean, we've got to figure out a way to pay the bills while maintaining artist integrity. And sometimes it's going to feel like you've gone too far in one direction, but I don't, I think it's every person's got an individual path and you've got to make those mistakes to figure out what it is that you need to do and how you need to approach it.
And most
Or
times,
some people just need to say, I don't want to connect this to commerce at all. I want to work my 8 to 5
hmm
and then do this out of 100% out of the love of it. And I'm jealous of that mindset in a lot of ways, but I enjoy it. I kind of like business. I kind of like figuring out how to run a business and make money doing this. And so it's
you should check out Dana Wilde then. She's
okay.
got a podcast for entrepreneurs, and it's how to make money having fun and being you.
Yeah.
It's all about mindset and the reticular activating system, and uh, figuring out ways to grow that's perfect for you.
Yeah.
Perfect for any particular person. But yeah, I think all the social media stuff, to a certain degree, since I was around doing all kinds of things for money prior to ever having any kind of social media, it's like, what is the purpose besides exposure? There might not be any kind of monetization end, you know, and then even if you have 2 million followers, you better try to sell them something because, it's like some of my friends, some of my students have 108,000 followers on Instagram. I said, ask them all for $1. Like,
Yeah.
like what is the point of having this many people say, wow, you're
Yeah.
fantastic at such and such? Where's it going? Why? Why do you show up every day and give them something? And why are they following you? And what are they learning? Or
Hmm.
like, is there going to be a point? Because I don't really want to take care of that many people. Like, what do they
Yeah.
want?
Yeah. The numbers can mess with your brain. In fact, I'm working on a video uh, that I need to work on it today. The working title is like it's a. Of course, I'm trying to catch your attention, but it's hard work does not equal success.
No,
And I'm going
no.
to point out that yes, hard work does equal success, but if you look at my analytics, it's so like it goes like this, and then it spikes, and then it goes like this, and then it spikes, and it goes like this,
I
and it
wouldn't
feels
mind if they were honest analytics. The
yeah.
way that Facebook and all these social media places interfere with the law of attraction and actually change algorithms by your interaction with other people or whatever other things they factor in, the
Hmm.
game that they're playing is not a normal exposure game. This
Yeah.
isn't like an independent record label putting in $6 million over 6 years to get a name out and actually progressing to make somebody a household name. These are things that are working in opposition to each
Yeah.
person too that they don't know. And so I rebel against the game. I don't
Yeah.
see any reason for any particular numbers or care about any numbers because they don't do anything for me in the long run anyway. Even if I had them,
Yeah.
who cares?
Yeah. And my perspective would just be that there's two things going along. There's your path of learning and creating and connecting with folks, and then there are these other things that just are going bonkers, especially on YouTube. As far as, oh, you feel down because uh, you feel down because this didn't work, or you feel great because this worked, and really life isn't all that different now than it was before. I mean, a lot of these opportunities lie in the fact that you keep showing up, and one person who can offer you something that could help you advance your career might be watching. And so it's just trying
Yes.
to help people think about their perspective and help my talk. It's a video talking to myself about
Yeah.
the ability to easily let yourself get sucked into these type of things, and know that it really is about showing up every day. And the way things tend to work for us isn't all that, and work out for us isn't all that different than it ever has been. Certain people kind of there are gatekeepers, and we use that word in a negative sense, but there are also some amazing gatekeepers out there who are looking for honest, legit, talented people
Yeah.
to give opportunities to. And I've experienced that because of putting myself out there and creating. I've found myself in some situations that I never would if it wasn't for that. And so to me, that's like, okay,
The
well,
connection is the main thing. Yeah.
yeah. And so I want to make sure that that is what I'm creating for, the things that I actually would like to see happen in my career, or the connections that I'd like to make, and and I do that by helping people as much as I possibly can. Like, my business model is on, I help people as much as I can, and I prop them up as much as I can in hopes that maybe I'll get opportunities because of it. So it sounds selfish, but I'd rather be selfish knowing that I'm helping people and providing opportunities for people and shouting people out.
Hmm.
That to me, it's like, if I can put it on that, like, your job as an educator is to make amazing educators, and you will be successful because of that. If you bring out the best in all of these people, it's you're putting your results. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but it's
Yeah.
just trying to. I worry. I know how much those numbers affect me, and I'm 44 years old with a wife and kid, and a career. I can't imagine what it must be like for the artist who's 19 and 20, and that's all they've ever known. And that's just such a difficult world to navigate, because you get fed this information that you think is valid,
Right.
and it's not.
So, what kind of things do you do to keep your head on straight and to reboot and re-encourage yourself when things seem bleak?
Well, I do have some friends that are doing this that I've developed, that we talk, and when I hear that their stories are identical, it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we all get bummed when a video doesn't do well, and we all get I always try to put something in my video that's new, that is something that's a little more challenging. Not always. I mean, sometimes I just turn on the camera and I write a script and I make the videos the way I've done in the past, but I'm always trying to work towards something new, so that even when I'm done with the video, I can look back. If it didn't do well, well, I'm better because of it. And to me, I want to keep getting better, and I'd rather track my progress based on that, as opposed to how it's received. And these are also just self-worth things that I've been
Yeah,
taught
everything's an inside game.
my whole life that, my value is not in this. And when you put yourself out there, that's one of the negatives that comes from it. So I mean, I encourage everyone to put themselves out there because it does. I don't think all social media and all YouTube obviously is bad. I think there's good things in there, but it's you're also entering the entering the arena where it's not always going to go well.
Yeah, well, that's why I like that Theodore Roosevelt quote that Brene Brown refers to. A lot of the folks that are throwing darts and have something to say aren't in the arena. You
Yeah,
know, they're not musicians. I mean, I've been a musician since I'm 2 years old. That's all I fell in love with. I've been writing songs since 10, playing guitar since 9. And, to me, I'm just a songwriter, performer, multi instrumentalist, recording engineer, passionate producer that just loves to make records and put out my own music everywhere. And it's a blast. But teaching never even occurred to me. I was just
yeah,
bringing my guitar to high school, playing in between classes, and kids started lining up wanting to take lessons from me. So then I started teaching. And when I graduated from Berkeley and they asked me to teach, I thought this would be okay for a while. So 40 years later, it's like, oh, yeah, this is a nice, easy, almost part time job because full time is 3 days. Four
yeah,
days you get to do what you want. And I thought, this is like the days of old. Like I'm an artist in residence, I'm a musician of the high court or something, or the church or whatever. And I get a stipend and I get a place to live. And it's like,
yeah,
this is great. And I get to record and do whatever I want on those other days. So
yeah,
to me, it was just find what you love and share it. And
yeah.
that made sense. And people used to say to me, I know you don't want to teach, but we need people like you because you explain things and you tell the truth and you help people put things together. There's a lot of psychology involved with it because people aren't ready for certain information. And people don't realize, students don't realize that they actually teach themselves
Hmm.
because they have to take whatever any of us talking heads are saying and take that information and attach it to something they already know.
Hmm.
And I have to help them experience it so that they remember it. And if they can turn around and help somebody else and teach it to somebody else, then starts to become solid. Like they'll remember
Hmm.
more of like 90% of it if they have to explain it to somebody else and learn it well enough to be able to explain it to somebody else. So it's a nice circular thing. And very often I am inspired and they have some great ideas. But, I was starting to need creative company, just more people who write, more people who
Hmm.
understand, more people who are emotionally attached to the sounds they create. And that's what I thought I was getting from your videos. It was like you're really in this in your heart and soul, not just for the $24 a month that somebody told me they were making from YouTube or whatever, or
Hmm.
it's not about I need 200,000 followers so that I can feel important. Like it's just like I need to make music because I need to make music.
Yeah,
And all the other stuff is great too, but it's not the
yeah,
real thing for me. And I think that real thing could be for anybody, anything they want it to be. That doesn't matter. I'm not judging it. It's just that we were talking about criticism and stuff, and it's like even student evaluations and stuff. Not any two people ever feel the same way about anything. So
yeah.
it doesn't even matter if in a class all the folks are happy about the class or they're not happy about the
Hmm.
class or the teacher because there are teaching styles, there are learning styles, there's everybody's in a different place and everybody likes something different. And especially if it's on YouTube or Facebook or one of those places and somebody's saying something negative about any of us, they don't play, they don't write
Yeah.
songs, they don't engineer, they don't write lyrics. I mean, they don't know anything about anything. They know what they like, they don't like this. They didn't really have to trash it, but
Hmm.
that was their prerogative. It just shows you where they're at. It doesn't really show that they know anything. So it's hard to keep that perspective because bad press after bad press can be annoying. We're all human, but
Yeah,
it
the
doesn't
negative
really matter
comments are
what they say.
something that took a while to understand. And what's funny is I know that when I get a bunch of super nice comments in a video, that video is not going to do well. and I think it's because it really connected with the people that watch my videos, but it's not going to go out past that. But when a video does go out, and I know that it's starting to be served up by more people because I get comments that are negative,
Well,
and
what
I
really
start I,
started to turn me off was you got to start making the little still thumbnail to be something shocking or absurd so that
yeah.
the algorithms will catch on to it. It's like, okay, good for some people. If that works for you, that's
Well,
good.
I'm guilty of trying to be silly in those. Uh,
I don't mind
I'm
fun and silly, but yeah, some what's getting rewarded is always the nonsense. It's like TV shows that are of stuff
yeah.
that's insane or stuff that's absolutely horrible, and it's like, oh yeah, but this is real. It's not made up. It's like that's even worse.
Well, the trick is to do something that sparks your curiosity, but then you have to deliver on it because people won't stay. So if
Right.
you can make sure that you can, that's why I spend way too much time on it, just trying to figure out a way that it's not clickbait. It actually delivers in a clever way. But if people get too mad, they'll just stop watching, and that'll hurt. I don't fault YouTube too much for it. I mean, they're always trying ways to. They want people to watch videos for a long. They want people to stay on their platform, and so when things get out, they're always tweaking things. I do think they. I mean, it's a big business, obviously, but they do of all the platforms, they do the best job, in my opinion, of providing opportunities for legitimate creators to have a platform and make money. So
Yeah, it's my
I'm willing
favorite.
to play the game to a point, and I try to make it a creative outlet as well.
Yeah,
I use that as an opportunity to work on my photography skills, my design skills,
right.
which has helped me in other ways. So yeah, I but it isn't right now, and this 2023, the thumbnail carries a lot of weight. But videos are starting to autoplay more, and so that means the first 5 seconds of your video is more important. So that will change the way we make our videos because we got to make sure that you're interested when that first thing starts to roll. If it's just my face talking, unless you really like my face, you might not be as interested to click and stick around. So
Well, no matter what it is, they're going to change it in 3 weeks. So,
yeah, they do change it a lot. That's part of the.
did you say you have a video that, I mean, not in this particular conversation, but I'm trying to remember if you've said it on other videos where you get into your yeah, I did. I think I saw a video where you talked about different lighting and how you set up
Mhm.
your camera stuff, but did you get into actual cameras, which ones you were using?
Uh, I think I've mentioned it from time to time. Those people do ask these questions a lot, but
Some people put them all down in their description so that you can do affiliate
yeah,
links.
for a while I had that. I need to put all that back in there because that will be enough for. Uh,
Go to B and
I'm
H
also
Meyer.
like I've spent a lot of money on cameras, and I don't want to ever, you know. I actually got because of YouTube for a while. I was pursuing some video client work. Like I had a few clients that were paying me to make videos, and so I put all that money towards cameras so I could have nice cameras. But what I'm using is overkill for what is required or necessary for YouTube. But it has good autofocus. Good. My studio is super dark. It has good low light performance, and uh, I
It's fun. It's
justify it because
always
I feel like I'm trying to do something maybe a little unique in that trying to take. I learned during the pandemic when I got into this, I started watching all these filmmaking YouTubers learning about gear, and I
mhm.
love that. I mean, I really what the reason I really dove into this is because I released an album of piano based stuff like modern classical uh, and kind of quiet piano stuff. And a lot of the videos on YouTube were out of focus rivers and trees, and there was just kind of backgroundish. So I thought, I want to tell a story. And we were at the beach with my family, and my dad had just bought a drone. And
Oh
so I
boy.
searched how to make cinematic drone shots because once you can figure it out, a drone makes everything look cinematic if you do it right.
Yeah.
And so I did that whole video, first video with the drone, and then I had this little storyline, and then I bought a better lens for my camera. Then I bought a better camera for the third one, and you can see the progression there. And I got hooked on it, and that coincided with making videos about the samples. And so the quality of filmmaking has always been has been a pursuit of mine, and so I'm trying to work that in as much as possible. And I do get a lot of kind comments on it, but it's funny. It's like another another parallel to writing music is that I made my music sound good, my compositions sound good before I made them good compositions, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
I knew how to make that kick drum sound good before I knew how to write a good drum part, or I knew how to make the guitar sound good before I knew how to write a good guitar part. And I feel like I have learned how to make my videos look good, which has bought me a little time, because it is important. But I've learned how to make it look good as I'm learning how to tell better stories.
Yeah.
So, but I believe, and I kind of, a lot of people, when they're first learning, they're like, I just wish I could make my stuff sound good, or I can't write good songs, but I can, I can do this. And I'm like, just stop worrying about that. And whatever you're interested, just go with it. Because when you
Hmm.
zoom it out, if you get better at recording, well, what's going to happen? You're going to surround yourself with better songwriters who want to
Hmm.
work with you. You're going to get better at learning songs.
Right.
And the opposite, say you are a violinist who has you can't do anything on the computer. Well, get really good at the violin. And eventually, those, like you talked about, those little roadblocks, and a lot of times they're just silly roadblocks that we have. You'll get
It's
past
just a
one,
thought. Yeah.
you'll get past one, and you will accelerate your learning so fast. And then when you fast forward 20 years, you catch up, and there'll be times where
Yeah.
there's an uneven balance between the two things, but they're connected and they pull one another up. And so that's kind of what I was like, I'm going to make the best looking videos I possibly can because I love learning about this. And then I'm going to learn how to tell stories so that in the event I can put these two things together, then maybe I can create the art that I really feel and is in my head and it's what I want to make. So
Yeah.
uh, that's why I
Well, that's why I'm asking. It's like, so yeah, what camera is that? That's really nice.
oh sorry. I have two cameras. I have a Sony A7S III, which is my monster. I love it.
It's a
And then
monster.
and then the camera I'm using now is a Sony ZV-E1, which is great because it has the same sensor. So basically the same image as the A7S III, but it's half the price because it feels like a toy. It's plasticky and uh, it's not
Spending
made
money
to
on that
be.
part.
Yeah, they saved the money there, and it's just that's it lacks some of the tactile features, but it's a great companion to the other one. It actually does some things. It's much better at streaming, which is important because the A7S III came out in 2020, I think, and this one just came out last year, and so it's a little more modern in some of its the app that it works with. And if someone wants to get a really nice camera and they're nice camera for a musician,
Mm,
then that would be what I'd recommend. I don't see much unless you're into photography and such.
right.
Uh, Getting what I have or something similar doesn't make a ton of sense for most people, but yeah,
Um,
and there's a new line of the 6000 series of the Sony's, but they have a smaller sensor, which is not bad. It just doesn't let as much light in. It's not as good at low light performance.
Yeah. And what are you
It's
editing in?
I switched over to DaVinci Resolve
Yeah, I like that one
from
too.
Premiere Pro.
Yeah.
Premiere was
Are
a
you
lot of
using
people
the
have
demo or
switched.
the
Not
full version?
what's that?
Demo
of
or the full
DaVinci.
version?
I have the full.
Nice.
There are a few features that I felt like I needed to get it. Um, so I opened up Premiere today because a buddy was asking me a question and I kind of missed it because I got really fast at Premiere. And I
Yeah.
feel like now I'm always having to learn something, relearn something,
Oh, definitely.
and eventually I'll get proficient at it to the point where I won't miss Premiere. But
I get
you
it.
know, that's the that's the equivalent, the proficiency of learning a DAW. It's important so that you can let your ideas happen.
Yeah, definitely. And if you're in an idea mode, don't spend time messing around with the equipment. Get the idea down, then learn the equipment.
Yeah.
Yeah, like do the writing when the writing's flowing in. Don't let the equipment stop you. This is the iPhone 13 Pro
Yeah.
with that Elgato camera hub thing and the software that goes on the phone. But this is only the second time I've tried to use this with Zoom. The first time, and we'll see, it might happen this time as well, my speaking and the audio for me is out of sync.
Oh, really?
And I haven't found a video yet to figure out how to put it back in sync
Huh.
and why my DaVinci Resolve would spit it out that way or play it that way.
Yeah. There
Some
are all
have
these new
offsets
services
and buffer
now.
sizes and various things to change, but none of these have that kind of software built in. So,
Yeah, there's another paid platform that a lot of people seem to be using these days that uh, it records everything to locally and then uploads it so that you don't ever have that out of sync issue because you're getting real time recording. So it would even record on my device and upload it when it was done, and you would grab it. So, but that's I'm sure good services cost money, so I'm sure that's just another thing to spend
use
ten
free
dollars
while
a month
free is
on.
good.
Yeah, free is
Yeah,
good.
yeah. And what were some of the subjects that some of your songs were about when you had lyrics?
Oh, um, it was a hodgepodge of single 20 guy or single guy in his 20s. So there's a lot of relationship stuff. There was spiritual songs. There were just some kind of making fun of myself songs that I've that's been a theme of my life for a long time. I'm okay to make fun of myself. Uh, yeah, it was kind of all over the place, a lot like my channel is now. Uh, yeah, it's mostly relationship based, mostly singer songwriter. It just seems like a different life. Every now and again, I go back and listen to it. I'm like, I'm so glad I did that. I'm so glad that I made those songs, captured those moments. You know,
That's
which I
great.
hopefully I'll feel the same way about these videos at some point when I look back. On
I
my
don't see why you wouldn't. I mean, it doesn't really even serve us to have any thoughts that bring us down so much. It's like if a thought
yeah,
comes through that makes you feel that bad, that's one of those thoughts to change or throw away right away. And that's what I seem
yeah,
to be trying to practice daily now. And you even hear Jim Carrey talking about this kind of stuff. It's like a stringed instrument. You have to tune yourself thousands of times a day
yeah,
just to feel above water. There's enough weight in the world to bring us down on all kinds of things, but to
yeah,
think I should have never done this or spent time doing that or spent the money to do this, it's like it doesn't really bother me so much. I like investing in myself. If I change my mind, I sell it, I give it to
hmm,
somebody. I have a whole batch of songs that I wrote when I was in college when things were more spiritual for me. And I have like a bunch of Jesus songs that I've never used anywhere. And I thought, do you rewrite lyrics for these, or do you try to find a publisher that would give them to somebody else, and do you want to do them yourself? Or yeah, it's like I don't want to regret anything. I just like things
yeah,
getting bigger and bigger and more inclusive and more loving and more gentle with myself and other people and more patience. And when I don't have that, it's like, okay, it's time for a nap.
yeah. I get
Because
that.
I can't handle it, But yeah, there's just so much stuff to enjoy. And I love all the different aspects of the things you've gotten into, and you want to look back and admire where you've come from. Like I have like 57 journals in my life, and I can go back to 14 years old and see the dreams I had and the desires and the equipment I longed for, or the technology I wished I understood. And it's so great to be us now. It just gets
Yeah.
better and better. And to have more fun with cameras and making videos and having video films of ourselves and stuff, it's kind of it's exciting. But then to add the community of it, like you're
Mhm.
doing, and that YouTube is providing for us, and helping people stand out to one another to say, oh, we might have something in common. You want to get together
Yeah.
and have a chat? It's really cool. I mean, I didn't even know this was going to turn into a podcast. It's like
Yeah.
everybody has a podcast. That's what a trendy thing to do. I'm not interested in running a podcast. I'm not a host. I'm not just a teacher. I'm an artist. I'm a recording artist. I write songs. That's who I really am. That's what I do. And then I think if you take music out of the picture, who are you? And then if there's
Yeah.
no music in your life, who are you? It's like, well, I'm a fun-loving human being. I'm enjoying being on the planet. I want to be here another 50 years. That would be great. I'll live to 110. That sounds good to me. Like, uh, especially if we're having fun with all the toys, and yeah, and each other. So yeah, being easy about it is probably what I'm trying to learn more about, because I've always taken everything too seriously.
Yeah.
You relate?
I do.
Tell me about it.
Oh, just taking myself too seriously?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I think you're right about all that though, that it is nice to have these visual memories and uh I've had a good yeah, no, I'm just grateful that for the career that I've had and the choices that I've made, and I don't look back on any of it with any regret. I wish that uh
Good.
I probably could have, every time I thought I was going to go one direction and didn't, there's obviously some disappointment, but then it's been so clear that I am in a position that I am to do the things that I really enjoy now because of so many of those things that seemed like failures or dead ends. And so that has helped me with my perspective moving forward that, well, there are things I want to do now. And if they don't happen, well, something else will come along. And, we all have to determine whether or not we are going to enjoy what we do or not. I mean, yes, I know some people have a much tougher time, and it's hard to find the silver lining. But
Mm,
there have been a lot of people with a lot less that have found happiness and contentment. And so, but there's always that struggle in all of us in the
that's why
moment.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned Dana Wilde, because everything is a thought problem.
Yeah.
I mean, people do have challenges and stuff, and I don't want to diminish any of those kinds of things. But
Hmm.
for the rest of us, like a friend of mine's always saying, are you going to ruin today just because you're upset about something that happened last week? Like, why do
Yeah.
you keep doing that? It's like you got hit with a fork or something and you're going, God, that hurt. But you keep reminding yourself and hitting yourself again and again about how bad that was. And we all have broken hearts and we all have disappointments. And it's like, what are we supposed to do with them all? I don't know. It's really helpful sometimes for me to hear about how they told Barbara Streisand she couldn't sing. Or even
Yeah.
her own mother said, who would ever spend money to go and see you sing? Why, why would that happen? It's like every single person, Fred Astaire, dances, sings, dances a little, balding. Like they had such low, like
Hmm.
people had no vision. They didn't know what they were seeing. They didn't even, they turned down the Beatles twice. Every major label turned them down twice. And I love how people are always badgering McCartney, going, when are you going to give it up? When are you going to stop? You've got enough money. What's the matter with you? He's like, what? I'm going to stop because of you. Like,
Yeah.
like that's what I have to say even to any naysayers now. Why should I change my life for anybody because somebody says, who is this chick on YouTube? Who does she think she is? It's like,
Yeah.
I'm somebody who has devoted my entire life to the things I love with music, and I don't care who you are or what you think. It's like it
Well, and
really doesn't matter to me. It's
and
like,
everybody's opinion matters. But what I found is that
not if it's hate mail.
but what I found is that when we put it in text, we're all on an equal playing ground. We all have letters and we can organize them. But then when we if we actually saw and interacted with some of the people that are throwing the mess at us,
Mm,
we would just like, oh, why would I possibly care what that person has to say about
right.
me? Once, but we kind of think that no, they're a group of people that, and some people do have legitimate feedback. I've got some of that, but you can tell when there's a certain sadness in people when they lob some of these mean things, and they've had their own disappointment. So you want to try to be understanding of it, but it is, but it definitely takes some work to not let that. I know, there are times where I could get 10 amazing comments and get one negative one, and
Always
it's
remember
easy
that
to
one.
remember that negative one.
Yeah.
And it's just a reminder of how important our words are to other people. You could
Yeah.
make
Well, that
comments
shows
even
you
in
how important
passing.
words are to yourself, too.
Yeah.
That's why it's good not to keep repeating those ones. Or like some people in the arts say they never look at any of the reviews because they know it's going to torture them. They're only
Yeah.
going to remember the bad ones. And there's no consensus ever. Not
Yeah.
every single person asked their opinion about any particular thing is going to say this is what that song should be about. This is what
Yeah.
that arrangement instrumentation should be. This is what your lyrics should have said. This is the title. Why did you wear that? Why would you film it from this direction? It's like, even that's one of the reasons I didn't want to teach. I hate grades. I don't see any reason for them. They get manipulated, and somebody's got a lot of money and send their kid to the school, and they can't get lower than any other grade, and the dean will change their grades anyway. So it's so stupid to me that it doesn't make any sense to even have them. So then the real criteria is actually, what are you learning, and how do you progress? How can I help you move forward and actually do something that matters?
Yeah.
What is the real thing we're actually after here? And that's why I wanted to talk to you, because a lot of your videos and the way you talk and the way you seem to put these things together are actually heartfelt and they're real. It's not just for this number or for this algorithm or for this thing,
Yeah.
or hopefully sell a bar soap or whatever the heck it is. And there's nothing wrong with making money and selling soap. It's just
Yeah.
that sometimes you want it to be, it's like, it's, if the things have the right balance, then they sit right and you can sleep at night.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I that's what I'm trying to do, and it's nice to hear other people recognize it, and I'll continue to try to um, just find a way. I want people to. There are some areas where I want to make sure that it's clear that I have some authority on the matter.
You
If
do,
it's
because you
a
say you do. You are who
specific
you are
task.
because you say you are. That's the authority you need. Inner authority, inner permission from an artist, that's all you need.
Yeah, just balance that with humility, and those are things I think about often. I want to, if someone wants to learn something from me, I want to be confident in the way that I communicate that thing. But also, it there are lots of different ways and perspectives, and this is the way I've chosen to do it, but you need to put your spin on it, and so I enjoy it.
Yeah, yeah, it's very cool. Did you have more? Did you want to say about the cameras, or after DaVinci Resolve, before things
No,
get hooked up, or
that's that's all.
that's all the magic
That's
of that?
all. That's another topic for another podcast, another day. Probably that would take me forever to make sense of all that. Uh,
I want
yeah,
to see the drone video now. I'll
yeah. Go
watch
back
that
and
after
search
this.
my paper walls videos, paper trail
Okay,
from
paper
way
trail.
back in 2019. That's kind of the genesis of maybe 2018. I have some stuff on YouTube before that, but that's kind of when I really started getting into uh, this
That's right
new
when
part of
most
my life.
people started paying attention to YouTube and
Yeah.
all this took off in the directions that it's taken off. Yeah, cool. What haven't we talked about that actually mattered to you when you thought, oh, I'm going to be on a podcast I'd like to talk about?
Oh, I think we've covered most of it.
We've kicked it around enough.
Yeah, I think that's all that people need to hear about me at this point after, almost 2 hours. I think people need to go learn about somebody, learn a guitar part from Jimi Hendrix or do something else besides this YouTuber.
Yeah, get some more Da Vinci Resolve techniques together.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's amazing, that program.
it
Even the
is.
free version.
Yeah, there's not much that the paid one does to it, and it's full of. There's a lot to learn. It can be overwhelming too.
Oh, yeah.
In some ways, it's a little bit more of a workaround to do simple tasks, but it can do
Yeah.
them so much better. But I haven't quite I've got to take a step back and learn a few things to. In some ways, I felt like my videos looked a little better because I could get what I wanted quicker. So I'm still learning how to use some of these more advanced tools. And instead of learning them, I just finished the video because I'm like, all right, I've spent 30 hours on this video. No one cares what my skin tones look like if they're a little too much magenta. So we're going to go ahead and put this out there.
That's what happens with like, I got to get the right sound on the snare. It's like,
Yeah, you can.
drive yourself crazy.
There's getting the right sound and there's keeping the thing moving. And if you stall the operation because you can't get the right sound, then you've lost. You've got to
Well,
you
you've
got to
certainly
balance
killed your
the.
momentum. Now you got to pick it up on another day.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. There is a guy I just stumbled on YouTube that's really good with Resolve, and I'll put him in our show notes because I can't think of his name right now. But I'll send you a link. Maybe you've seen his channel, maybe not. But he just showed me a way to do these quick keys that has saved me hours. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, please post that. I'll check it out.
Yeah, I'll check it out. I mean, I'll check it out to you. Well, thank you so much, John. This was really cool.
Well, thanks, Lauren. I had a good time. Glad we could do it.
Me too. It was really lovely to meet you, and I appreciate your channel and all the cool things you're doing. So thank you. Thank you for that stuff.
All right. Thank you.
Ciao.
Bye. Take care.
Bye bye.